Okay, so the aftermath of cutting the concrete and busting it all out, my thinking was to use a circular skill saw with a masonry blade, but that was not gonna happen. Way too thick. Would have taken way too long. So we ended up just doing it with the gas-powered concrete saw, and that is for sure the tool to use. So over here there was an existing expansion joint, just like that, PVC expansion joint in the concrete. So I cut from there, and then I just cut another straight line across there. But obviously we had to cut in sections and bust it out as we went along. And then as I came up close to here, I did it by hand with the angle grinder and also a diamond tip masonry blade. Cut along here to free it up, and then I just cut in sections slowly, and then chiseled it out by hand. And you can see that the coping where the beadlock liner slides in is intact and not disturbed. And now to dig the old skimmer out. You can see the substrate over there was just gravel, and then sand, and then more sand closer to the walls of the pool. And of course they had to run this, I'm pretty sure this is the other return to the jet over there, but the two connections are in the bottom. One is the suction side to the pump, and the other one goes down to the main drain. Now the thinking behind this is you pop in that vacuum plate there, and it's supposed to draw up from the other one. Not a very fantastic way of doing it, so what I'm going to try and do is trench along here and just run the main drain. I'm going to connect off of it, pass a pipe underneath, and I'm going to connect the main drain to its own suction line to the pump. That's really the ideal way to do it. Now, when you're doing this, the most important thing is to try and get the exact same skimmer that you're replacing, because of the holes that are pre-drilled into the metal walls of the pool. Otherwise then you have to start patching and cutting metal, and it's just very unpleasant. If you're doing a concrete or plastered pool, you know, obviously it doesn't make a difference because you have to bust the whole wall out and replaster it anyway, so that's not really an issue for plaster pools. But for this we had to get the exact same skimmer. This one is a Jacuzzi, which is now Caravin in Quebec, Canadian, Quebec-based company that makes these, the Model W or WFL skimmer. So we have here, you can see I just hacked away at it there to get this guy to loosen up, and it's set in there quite a ways deep. So I'm gonna get that out, gonna get in the new one so that we can get the liner in and repatch this hole, reconcrete it. Although what you could even do is just put pave blocks on top of here, so if you ever needed to get to it in the future, and given that most of your main connections are here, you can just take off the paver blocks and dig up, and it won't be that hard. You won't have to start sawing concrete. Although if I am to patch this concrete, I'm just going to have another expansion joint there, so it won't look too out of place. Anyways, there you go. There's all the material. I'm going to save that to put it back in. And this in here is like really thick clay, which is a pain in the ass to dig out. But anyway, that's really the only how to remove your skimmer. I'll try and put in a clip of us sawing out the deck there. It's not too interesting, but still it'll show you what we had to go through to get it out, and try and film along here and get the project as we go along. So, the before. So, slight bit of progress here. You can see where I've busted this guy off, so I had to grind off the bolts that were here with the angle grinder from the other side. Throw in a quick clip of that. Tried not to damage the metal wall too much. Now it's just a matter of digging the old skimmer out. You can see that whoever installed this had the fantastic idea of running the return line right behind the skimmer well. It's almost like they said, how can we fuck this up just a little bit? Just a little bit. So that's what they did. I don't know, maybe they wanted it to support the thing. I really don't know. And you can see as you start to get down deep here, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. You can't really lift the shovel out anymore, so a scoop of this kind is really helpful. And of course you want to be careful not to smash the connections there. You can see it's there's a glued section and then a threaded section, and they've used black poly pipe similar to this. So keep digging and remove the old skimmer. I've been trying to cut away at it bit by bit to make it easier to maneuver around, and saving the dirt in the layers as it comes out so that I can put it back in. So, got it all digged out to the point where we can see the connections at the bottom here. You can see that that hose clamp or barb clamp is totally rusted out, versus the nice stainless ones here that have held up pretty well. So this will kind of have to carefully go out with the angle grinder, and these we may be able to just grease and take off, and then we'll go at it with the heat gun to warm up this polypex or whatever it is, black pipe, and we'll be able to get it off. As a side note, you can kind of see here where it cracked. That's where the split was. It was leaking from, in one place at least. And I think I'm just going to cut along here to give me more access along there. You can see that the backfilling, or actually the ground soil here, is filled with this very thick compacted clay, which is very unpleasant to get out. But the sand here is not so bad. Oh, just sawed this bit off. Give us some room to work. Easier access now for sure. I'll be able to grind off the hose barbs, or what do you know, hose clamps, without damaging the pipe, hopefully. So plan B. You can see I kind of skimmed along here with the angle grinder. Do not want to cut that. It's going to be more of a pain to replace, but you see it just kind of cracked right off. I cut these pieces in two with the hacksaw. Just want to be careful not to get too much crud into there. But I just cut it right down the middle. That, in order to free it up so I can get more room to cut at those the hose clamps that are over there. What a job. Okay, pulled them out. This guy just simply unscrewed, and we're going to use that to gauge the depth of the extension pipe that we're going to need to put for the new skimmer, assuming that it is exactly to the same spec as this old one, given that this is probably about 30 or 40 years old. This one just cracked off. See, that's where it was broken and leaking from. And that one, we're just going to remove that barbed half-inch fitting, and we're going to put an angled one so that I can trench to connect the line for the main drain right to the pump. So I had to go with these super carefully with the angle grinder. As you can see, I tried to saw it off here, and she just wasn't having it today. So you can see snapped off there. Careful not to nick the pipe. It's got a little scrapey there, but nothing too deep. This is pretty thick poly pipe. Suction side anyway, so that'll be good with two more hose clamps on it, and then we'll just heat this up with the heat gun, and then yank this broken part out. Alright, so change of plans. Fuck the trench. This is a brand new skimmer with the proper working parts, so we're just going to go and plumb it right back to the main drain the way it is. Not ideal, but after a more careful consideration, it's going to be a very unpleasant task to dig a trench this deep all the way to the shack over there, so fuck it. If I had a digger, that'd be a different story, but I think it's going to be fine just connecting it to the main drain because I do have the proper parts now to give it good suction. So, barbed connections to the black poly pipe, hose clamps in opposing directions. I'm going to put flex PVC glued right into there, like this, and then attached onto here. You're not really supposed to barb these, this is meant to be glued in, but you can with enough hose clamps. So that's what we're trying to do. Eliminate as many fittings as possible and try and have as many glued connections as possible. That's always the name of the game. Brand new connectors, not reusing old shit. You know, you never know how brittle and used something is. So another point to mention is I've coated all the hose clamps with white lithium grease, a good goopy on there, just to try and prevent the process of corrosion as much as possible. And they've all been bolted down in a way that they're easy to get to because, you know, when you're working on something, repairing something, always consider future service because the odds are the guy coming back to work on it is going to be you. So a slight adjustamente over here. We're going to have to do barbed on the stub-up pipes, which are going to take the flex PVC. I was going to do a glue joint down here and then a glue joint to the skimmer, but there's absolutely no way in hell that that's going to be able to be maneuvered in because you only get one shot with the glue joints. So they're going to have to be glued and set into the skimmer base and then fitted onto these barbed fittings. So that's going to be the way to do it. So we got these on here. We're going to dry fit the skimmer, take a last measurement, and then see if we can get it stuck on there. So finally got the damn thing in. Look at that. Oh what? Oh what? Isn't it lovely? We did flex glued into the base of the skimmer well. Barbed clamps in opposing directions. Once again, this flexible PVC or spa flex, not really supposed to be, well, it's not made to be clamped, but you can. It's made to be glued. What they had done on the old one is they'd actually done ABS to PVC gluing with poly pipe. The only thing with rigid piping is your measurements have to be pretty accurate and you only really get one chance. Got it bolted on. We have the U gasket, so the liner's going to go on top of that, the other black gasket, and then the faceplate is going to get screwed in. Now, I noticed on these newer flavors, the holes, fucking dog, man, Jesus. Anyway, the holes where the faceplate goes in is plastic. There's no brass ferrule or brass thread chase where a machine screw would go in. It's a regular, like a wood screw that threads into the plastic. Whereas on the older generation, the original jacuzzis, they had it was a brass nut pretty much in the plastic that the screw would go into. So less likely of stripping that out. In this case, more likely of stripping it out. So you really gotta have your thinking cap on when you're doing this and be careful. This little chapeau over here is somewhat adjustable for when you lay your base or your filler around. As I say, I'm probably gonna do pavé on top of here, some kind of unistone paver blocks, so that in case of fuck-ups, it's not going to involve sawing more concrete. So we're just going to put 2 expansion joints, the PVC strips, or you don't even have to put them really. And then we're going to backfill this, gravel, paver stones, and that'll be it. Choose something that matches this quite nicely. We'll try and film my connections in here. So glued, flex. See, I put them S and D. Suck dick. No, skimmer and drain, so that I didn't fuck them up. Barb clamps 2 opposing directions. And the only way to get these on is with the heat gun. And still, man, it was quite a fight. Quite a fight. Now, the other portion, you can see here, where some of the smooth surfacing or this parging has come off, and we see some of the abrasive material has been exposed here. This is actually pretty sharp, and the previous time what they'd done is they just put sand over this and threw the liner on top. And the problem with that is any little bit of water that's going to get into here is going to wash that sand away, and this is going to be poking at the liner, because you have to remember that liner is under a tremendous amount of pressure, and any little stone is going to puncture right through that. We have the same thing happening over here. You can see quite a bit larger patch. It's rough material, so we're going to go over it with a sand concrete mix and smooth that out. The other thing is the drain under here. There was a lip around here because you see they didn't seat it quite properly into the cement. What I think happened is the thing floated up when they were setting it, and they fucked that up. So they just put a lip around here so that the liner can press around it. You can see kind of like here where the jets are. See how it's rounded? Same thing where the light is. It's rounded so that the liner can go around it smoothly. So we're going to build that up with some concrete and get the rest of the water out with the ship Vic. And yeah. Okay, so here, next day after the patchy dried, used Quikrete sand topping mix. You can see nice and relatively smooth. You can probably even hit this with a sand or an angle grinder if you wanted to, but it makes a nice concave surface, convex surface for the liner to grab onto. Or rather for the liner not to have a severe angle so that it won't rip and pull. Did the same thing over here with a patch, or with a, what do you call it, the aggregate was showing through. You can see some groundwater is still leaking. And again here where that coarse material was showing through, where the, I guess, concrete had come away, or I don't know, something happened. But anyways, it was too sharp to put a liner on, so we patched it. I patched it. Same thing over here. And yeah, so now just ready to drop in the liner. So, the completed project. Final step was cutting and laying the stone, getting the top of the skimmer cover to sit flush. As I say, I went with putting paver blocks, unistone like that, instead of just repouring the slab for future service in case something fucks up down there, and it's just a matter of lifting the blocks, digging and whatnot, instead of busting and sawing and busting concrete again. Yep. Somebody's doing fireworks. So yeah, that's this is the end of it. It's not totally perfect there. I mean, ideally, what I would have done was maybe measured this so that I wouldn't have had to cut a seam, but I did opt to put the seam in the middle, not off to one side, because it would look stupid. Cracks are filled with stone dust. These here I'm going to glue in with premium peat, because